For our project, we will be analyzing the show Shameless. Meet the fabulously dysfunctional Gallagher family. The story first unfolds with the alcoholic father, Frank. The eldest of the family is Fiona, who is the primary caretaker of the family since the mom left years ago. Lip, Ian, Debbie, Carl, and Liam are all of Fiona's siblings, whom all live together on the south side of Chicago. The show focuses on the Gallagher's lives, their family dynamics, and individual battles as well. Throughout the show, drugs, alcohol, and addiction are present. This presence of drugs, alcohol, and addiction in the home with children seems like an everyday thing for the Gallagher family. For our project, we are going to be focusing on the normalization of drugs, alcohol, and addiction, and how the normalization impacts the viewers of the show.
In Shameless, drugs, alcohol, and addiction are highly normalized throughout the show. The excessive and constant use of drugs, alcohol, and addiction in media may lead viewers to develop desensitization to drug use. Substance abuse can be defined as the dependence on addictive substances, typically drugs and alcohol. A subsequent definition includes the harmful use of substances for mood-altering purposes. Before we can understand how drug and alcohol abuse impacts families, we need to be able to understand family systems and what makes a family either functional or dysfunctional. A family is considered functional if they have most of the following traits: a legitimate source of authority established and supported over time, a stable rule system established and consistently acted upon, stable and consistent shares of nurturing behavior, effective and stable child rearing and marriage maintenance practices, a set of goals toward which the family and each individual works, and sufficient flexibility and adaptability to accommodate normal developmental challenges as well as unexpected crises. A family doesn't have to have all of these to be considered functional, but if they lack most or all of these, then we might consider them dysfunctional. In Shameless, the Gallaghers lack many of these functional traits. There is no source of authority, no stable rule system, and no sharing of nurturing or intimate behavior. We can relate this to them normalizing each other's drug use when it is actually quite problematic.
In the 9 seasons that Shameless has been on TV, we have seen literally constant drug use, whether that be marijuana, alcohol, meth, pills. They really do it all. Lip has a lifelong battle with alcoholism that causes him to enter treatment, which is paid by his professor, Professor Ewens. He and Lip are very close because Ewens also is fighting a lifelong battle with alcoholism. After being convicted of at least 5 DUIs, Ewens ends up in prison, where he eventually passes away. At this point, Lip has met his AA sponsor, Brad, who sets an example for Lip as to how to live sober. By the current season, both Brad and Lip are sober. Brad has a family, and Lip is still attending AA, where he is now someone else's sponsor. These 3 stories show very different outcomes of alcoholism. The development of Lip's character throughout the seasons really portrays strength, bravery, and perseverance. Drug use in the Gallagher family is generational. The parents, Frank and Monica, are lifelong heavy drug users that are rarely around. They go on benders for days, and you'll never know when they're going to appear and when they're going to disappear. When Monica passes away, the family finds 8 pounds of meth in her storage locker. Some of the children decide to sell the meth, and Carl, one of the middle children, takes on that task. He encounters a lot of violence and a lot of issues when trying to sell the drugs. He has a lot of close encounters with dealers. In Season 4, Episode 7, the youngest child of the Gallagher family, Liam, overdoses on cocaine that Fiona was given for her birthday. She left it out unattended at home, and Liam got into it not knowing what it was. They take him to the emergency room, and he ends up okay, but it is an incredibly scary situation and shows the dangers of leaving drugs unoccupied in a household.
In its Season 2 premiere, Frank finds himself in a serious predicament after mindlessly betting $10,000 with a fellow bargoer, whom he called an exaggerator after he had insisted he could withstand being tased twice. Unfortunately, Frank ended up losing, getting Liam, the youngest brother, and himself kidnapped by the bar patron he now owed debt to, only to get away while leaving Liam still in their custody as insurance. The way Shameless characterizes some of the effects that addiction can have on an individual, through the role of Frank in particular, is quite troubling to say the least. As a father figure, he has put his children in countless situations where they are not only in danger, but also, in many cases, forced to fix the messes he's made for the sake of the family moving on. In an attempt to get their brother back, the entire family bands together to harvest and offer homegrown marijuana as a bribe to make up for the remaining debt Frank owed in order to get Liam back. With the slow motion celebratory setting brought about through the last minute of this episode, like many of the episodes throughout the series, we are reminded by the Gallagher family that substance abusing behavior is normal for many of them, and it matches their understanding of alcohol and other substances' severity levels according to their family's usage and experiences. At the end of this episode, they don't quite have enough to end a cycle that they all play a role in and are each affected by personally throughout the entire series. Each member of the family becomes involved in substance abuse in one form or another. It all stems from their role models, the Gallagher parents. The father, Frank, is notorious for his excessive drinking and going off on long tangents or smoking anything he can get his hands on. There are many times throughout the seasons when they couldn't find Frank because he ended up drunk or high and passed out in an alley. Their mother, Monica, struggled with being bipolar and became an addict to cope with it. She ended up dying and giving her children each their own pound of crystal meth, which several of them sold to make a lot of money. Frank smoked all of his meth, trying to cope with Monica's death. Fiona had to raise her family due to her destructive parents, which caused her a lot of stress. She had mostly used alcohol and smoked marijuana to cope with her life. She once dabbled with cocaine and left it out in the open, and Liam overdosed on it, causing her to temporarily lose custody of her brothers and sisters. Lip used alcohol to drown out his problems. This caused him to become addicted to the substance. Ian is also bipolar and refused to take his medicine, which can make him unpredictable at times. He used drugs and alcohol to have fun and let loose when he was working as a prostitute at a gay bar. Carl is a drug dealer who also drank alcohol. Debbie started drinking alcohol with her welding buddies after she had her first baby. And even their neighbors, Kevin V., smoke weed and drink alcohol, causing the kids to be entirely surrounded by substance abuse. Even though Shameless consistently normalizes and promotes substance abuse, there are scenes where they concentrate on trying to fix their addictions. When Lip was at his worst with his drinking, his professor paid for his rehabilitation, which was thousands of dollars. This promotes seeking help and relying on a close friend to help you in dark times, even if you don't want to accept their help right away. Once Lip was finally sober, both his sponsor and his professor became heavily addicted to alcohol again. His professor got his fifth DUI and crashed through a woman's house, so Lip tried to help him become sober before his court date so he wouldn't go to jail. As for Brad, his sponsor, he cheated on his wife while he was drunk and she left him with their baby. Lip supported him through all of this and encouraged him to go to a meeting to sober up to get his wife back. Another message about seeking help involves Carl. After Carl became a drug dealer, he wanted to go straight. He decided to go to military school in order to have a better life. This promotes trying to escape a bad cycle to make something better of yourself. He sought help in the military to get out of drugs. Finally, Ian refused to take his bipolar medication and he was very unstable. His family encouraged him to go somewhere and get help to deal with his problem, and got him to a doctor to prescribe him the correct medication. Overall, the messages about seeking help is that family and close friends can help you recover from substance abuse. Adults and elderly people often have negative images of teenagers using drugs and alcohol. This may be due to their personal experiences, news coverages, or depictions that show on movies and television. Netflix has a lot more freedom than network television shows, which attracts a younger and more diverse crowd. Therefore, adults and elders may not stumble upon this show specifically. But there is a study that looks at adult consumption across all entertainment types. Munimo and Egerman's study looks into television consumption and how this shapes adults' perceptions of young people's substance abuse. Adults over 30 were screened for their television exposure, direct experiences with young people, socio-demographics, and lastly, their estimates of young people's substance abuse. They found those who were light as well as heavy television users view young people as drug users, whereas moderate viewers reported significantly lower viewpoints of young people as drug users. This show really gets people to look at their own lifestyle, and it can reassure people who may be living the same way. Today, media is a largely consumed source of both knowledge and entertainment. Shows like Sesame Street and Dora the Explorer have the ability to teach children their ABCs while helping them develop social skills. While television can be a source of learning, it can also expose them to drug and alcohol use in shows. Children and adolescents on average consume about 5.5 hours of TV a day. Shows which feature casual drug and alcohol use can influence children and teens' view on drugs and alcohol. By positively presenting substance abuse, media can normalize harmful behaviors, proved by a study by Roberts and Christensen. Adolescents and children are more easily influenced by TV's portrayal of illegal substances, as their beliefs and social behaviors are not fully formed. Historically, racial groups have been portrayed differently in the media. More negative images are linked to minority groups, when in reality, all groups use and sell drugs at similar rates. Most of the Shameless cast is Caucasian, with the exception of Liam and Veronica, who are both African American. Both races, black and white, are shown using and selling substances. Although Shameless is an entertaining series that takes a lot of twists and turns, the constant images of drug and alcohol use and abuse may be harmful for people who are not able to consciously consume the images in a neutral and responsible way. The dysfunction of the family is traced to their addiction and drug use, beginning with the parents. While some of the events are dramatized and unrealistically end in positive and safe results, addiction and drug abuse are real problems, and they can affect anybody.